For me, kayak fishing is simple. A boat, a paddle, a fishing rod, and unspoiled water. The fish are big. The chaos is beautiful. It's angling's addictive final frontier, and I'm hooked. I'm Drew Gregory, and this is Hooked on Wild Waters.
Drew Gregory's Hooked on Wild Waters has been brought to you by Jackson Kayak. We make fun. Seaman Lures, the science and art of fishing. Bending branches, pretty, smart paddles.
In all of my experience fishing wild waters, I've been surprised to learn that it's often the smaller and rarer bass species that take me on my wildest adventures. If you haven't heard of a bass called the Bartrams bass, you're about to learn a lot about it today, as it certainly takes me into some of the most scenic water in all of North America. What this bass lacks in size, it makes up for in its beauty and its challenging riverine habitat. You know, because there's so much confusion about what this fish exactly is, I decided it would be fun to stop in and see if we can talk to some locals to see if they even know what this fish is. And maybe we'll find someone that's actually caught some.
I'm Stephen H. Edwards. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm Drew Gregory. Nice to meet you, man.
Infamous person, that's me.
Well, tell us about these fish on the river, man, that we're going to catch, these Bartrams bass.
You know, it's very cool that you know them as that, because most people know them as red eyes, and then you have a lot of people that call them smallmouth bass, and they're not. They're a distinct species, and I'm sure right now there's heated discussion in biology departments in Clemson and UGA of what these fish really are.
That's right.
Endemic only to this river system. The other ones, probably known as red eyes, which are in kind of like poor man's brook trout.
Right.
In
other systems,
other side of Georgia, you know, southern Tennessee or whatever. These fish are only to here. And they're named after William Bartram, who was a pioneer naturalist in this area. Right. The fish are just fantastic though. You know, 30, 40 fish a day. I mean, an amateur like myself is going to catch 20. A professional like you is going to catch 5 times that. So
I don't know about that.
It really is great.
We got the right boats, we got the right weather, and we got the right location. So we're going to go check it out on the Chattooga River. This is Hooked on Wild Waters right here, man.
Listen, thank you for your time.
The Chattooga River is one of the most wild and scenic places I've ever been. It makes sense to me these little, small, beautiful black bass have tucked themselves in amongst these beautiful rapids, waterfalls, and just mountains all around. This section of river was actually suggested to me by the Jackson Kayak Whitewater team. It's not the typical section you would want to take a sit-on-top kayak on unless you have a good amount of experience and a helmet, of course, because once you put in, there is no turning back. As soon as we put on the water, we're floating downstream. We have yet to hit any major rapids, and right away, I'm casting out there getting fish after fish. These fish really aren't the hardest to catch once you get to their environment. There we go. There's a little guy. Oh yeah, Bartram's on. So I can just flip him in the boat here. Yes, not bad at all. Maybe 10, 11 inches looks like. He's so beautiful. As you can see, this fish, it looks like almost like a shoal bass, or a smallmouth bass. It's kind of a cross between the two. It's got these beautiful bars right here. It's more stripes on the side, and on the top it's more leopard print. You can see just kind of leopard spots. So a real unique fish, and you can see why before most considered it a red eye, but you can definitely see now how it's different than the traditional Coosa River or the Chattahoochee River system red eyes. Catching the Bartrams bass is not always easy. Well, actually it's pretty easy once you get there, but getting there is the hard part. And where do you stay? All the logistics. What else is there to do in the area for the family? Fortunately for us, I was able to run into Cheryl Parker from Georgia Power, and she fills us in on all the other amenities, activities to do in the area, and gives us a little bit of history about the dam on Lake Tougaloo and Lake Yona.
Well, we truly have a lot of history here. These dams date back to the late 1800s, early 1900s. These dams were constructed to supply power to the city of Atlanta when they were, lacking. So it was truly a feat to get the power from Northeast Georgia to Atlanta in those days. They are also ecologically friendly because they don't have any emissions. So that is another plus to this area. Georgia Power has various amenities on all of our lakes. We're a 6-chain system, and we have some type of recreation on every lake. Some lakes have more than others. Like this particular lake has a campground with 10 sites where you can drive up, you can tent, or you can bring RVs. But some of our other lakes have just primitive sites where you truly have to pack in. We've also got picnic areas, we've got boat ramps, we've got even some swimming beaches, some courtesy docks. So we try to provide a little bit of everything on all of our lakes for visitors.
One of the tactics I've been using to catch these fish that's been even more enjoyable is actually downsizing. I got this real short Creed K combo from 13 Fishing and this nice Z-Man trick shots here, and just kind of twitching it, just kind of twitch, 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 making it dart, just like the minnows in the river are darting all the time in between rocks. And they feel like they're 3 or 4 pounds in this ultralight rod. I'm so glad I switched. And this little trick shots from Z-Man is killing it right now. Look at this. They love this little trick shots from Z-Man. I actually put on this white color, this whitish color, because you can see little minnows all in this river. They're exactly this size, and basically they're this color, so match the hatch like always. I'm getting bite after bite after bite, but something happened that I didn't expect. There's one. Oh, there he is, little guy. Oh, it's a sunfish. It's one of those pretty little sunfish. Look at this thing, red breast. So one of the cool things about fishing in the Chattooga River and catching these Bartrams bass and downsizing to an ultralight rod like I have here is you can catch these beautiful red breasts like here. I mean, look at this. The colors on this, the turquoise and blues, you just can't find this anywhere but these pristine mountain rivers. Just like any fishing trip, you start to put together a pattern. And I've kind of found the moderate current and in about 3 foot of water depth that these fish tend to be hanging out in. The problem is all the fish are hanging out together. So the red breasts are there with the Bartrams. And at one point I'm catching red breast after red breast, and actually would rather be catching the Bartrams. So I almost have to pick the red breast off, then throw back in and catch the Bartrams. But hey, it's working, I'm catching fish, I'm having fun. There's one. Oh, she came and hit it. She just kind of nosed it. That was weird. There she is. Little guy, another sunfish. Come on, Bartrams. There's one. Oh yeah, it's a better fish. That's got to be a Bartrams. Oh yeah. Here we go, come on, and in the boat, nice, not bad. After I've caught so many of these, I've noticed that not all of them have those really bright, brilliant bars and stripes. This one right here is just kind of bland looking. And honestly, that's kind of the same way that you and I look different. It also has to do with the water clarity and the kind of substrate that the fish is hanging out in. Like this one might have been on sand, so he blends in a little bit better. But just like a chameleon or other animals, they can kind of change their colors. This guy may have changed it for that reason to hide. And if he was hanging around rocks, he can kind of make those spots come back out nice and bright. Let's let him go. Good one though, probably around 10. Earlier we talked to some of the locals about their Bartrams bass, but now I want to take you guys to the experts. I met Brandon Peoples a couple years ago at the American Fisheries Society down in Tampa, Florida. And Brandon is a professor at Clemson University. He knows all about the Bartrams bass. He's going to explain a little bit more about this fish and about the program at Clemson University.
So what we're finding right now is that Bartrams bass is mostly living in riverine habitats like you see here, this lower Chattooga River. You don't find them as much in reservoirs. They really like flowing water, clear water, like to hide in shoals where they eat their primary food source, which from a recent diet study that our undergrad students have done at Clemson, have found that they eat over 75% crayfish as adults. And so that's really what they're queuing in this fast water. Clemson is a really unique fisheries program in that we're relatively new. We've recently established an Institute of Excellence called the Fisheries and Aquatic Center of Excellence at Clemson. We call that FACE. And FACE is a really unique program in that we're pairing Clemson students and researchers with workers at the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and private industry to better fund research opportunities and teaching opportunities and outreach opportunities for this area. And so we have a really good program that gets undergraduate students directly involved with grad students. And so it's a really great way to get experience, connect our students with agency biologists, get them to conferences, get them doing undergraduate research, and it's a really great place to be right now.
That was some interesting stuff from Brandon about this fish, but I wanted to learn more. And fortunately, Brandon had some of his students there. Emily Judson is actually a graduate student doing her thesis on the Bartrams bass. Trust me, this girl eats, sleeps, and breathes this fish. She knows everything about it, and she's gonna explain more about her research and what that means for you guys who are trying to catch them.
So for my master's research, we are trying to identify the nesting microhabitat preferences of the Bartrams bass. And to do that, we select about roughly 20 sites per year and use a snorkel survey technique that involves approximately 300-meter transects at each site. We'll get in with a crew of about 3 to 4 snorkelers per effort. And once we find a nest, we will take certain data off of the nest in different microhabitat preferences, such as water depth, water velocity, the substrate that the fish is using in the nest bowl. And then we'll try to capture the parent off the nest because if you know anything about black bass, you know that they're really great parents. The males will guard the nest and they're very dedicated. So it's really not too hard to capture them when they're sitting on their beds. We'll collect a fin clip of the parent if we capture him, and then we'll also collect egg samples from the nest for genetic analysis as well, due to the hybridization that's going on between these Alabama bass and Bartrams bass. We're trying to see, which species are using what microhabitats.
There's one, that's a good fish. Man, they hit hard. Felt like a good one. I feel weird saying good fish when they're like 10, 11 inches. This isn't a bad one. Let's flip her in. Oh, that's a good one though. Nice. Wow. Biggest one I've caught so far.
He was a good husband to his wife, Linda. And you're a wonderful father to your boys, Drew. Jimmy and Billy Ray. And if we come through this, I promise to do all I can for them. He was the best of us. Amen.
I go right underneath this rock and it is giant, it is massive. You just don't realize how big it is until you're actually on the river. But don't get caught staring at this rock for too long, because the big rapids downstream, trust me, they'll make you squeal like a pig, boy. Woo! Woo! This section of the Chattooga River is filled with Class 2 and 3 rapids, one after another. I've always stressed the importance of paddling and how we all need to be learning how to paddle just as much as how to fish. If I didn't know how to paddle and had a little bit of whitewater experience, I could never have caught the fish in this section, and I would have missed out on one of the most scenic sections of the river I've ever been on in my entire life. So definitely get out there, have the proper gears, wear a helmet, strap all your stuff down. You can do these kind of things. Make sure you go with a partner and be safe, just the way we were out there today. Look, some people say it's not about the destination, it's the journey. And in fishing, it's not always about the size. It's the journey, it's the adventure. We had to fight thunderstorms, rapids. I mean, look at this. This is a crazy, crazy environment we're catching these fish in just for a little 11 and 12-inch fish, but it was all worth it. You can clearly see it's why I'm hooked on wild waters.
Drew Gregory's Hooked on Wild Waters has been brought to you by River Bassin Tournament Trail. No egos, just fun. Jackson Kayak. We make fun. GoPro. Be a hero. Bending Branches. Pretty, smart paddles. Orion Coolers. Never lose your cool. 13 Fishing. Make your own luck. Z-Man Lures. The science and art of fishing.